Let me see you move like that. Like what? Like that. Let me see you move like that. Just like that.
Many familiar faces in the audience, but those that I haven't met, my name's Amir, and I'm Managing Director at Nectar 360. And I did ask James backstage whether this was a view into his mind around raves, all things raves and events, and he didn't deny it. So I think this is a manifestation in his mind. So, Becca's working. I was obsessing about this in the break. Thank you. So the theme of our session this morning is turning sparks of customer insight into data-driven retail media. And we thought we would give over all the time, or the vast majority of time, to a fantastic panel of experts. And we've picked these panelists on the basis of, it gives you a snapshot of how we see the retail media ecosystem. So, of course, our digital partners, our agency clients, our direct clients, and of course, Nectar 360. So we're going to spend the vast majority of time on that. I couldn't resist the urge to tell you a little bit about Nectar and Nectar 360, so I'm going to spend 5 minutes doing that, and I hope it's useful for you all. So everything we do at Nectar 360 is driven by a fantastic customer loyalty program, Purple Nectar. That gives us a depth and breadth to our customer understanding, and that customer understanding drives everything we do. Absolutely everything we do at Nectar 360. This is the retail media flywheel as we see it. And I've got to say, this is the first event probably over the last 18 months that I've been to where I've heard the customer referenced regularly through the sessions. I know it sounds bonkers, but it's this the first time I've been to an event in the last 18 months, outside of our own, I've got to say, where the customer has been referenced. So point one for us, and how the entire team are geared, everything should start with a customer-first mindset and the customer experience. Yeah? Retail media's got to be additive to that customer journey. It's got to be personalised and it's got to be relevant. I thought Helen from SMG made that point really well earlier on. Moving on to stage two. So we've got billions and billions of rows of data, as you would imagine. It's meaningless if you can't pull out really valuable insights. And not only is that in the interest of clients, but also customers. So really pulling out the insights for those billions and billions of rows of data and using those insights to inform our retail media strategy on behalf of our clients. And then stage three, really, really important, and again came through in some of the sessions earlier on. We've built a capability that truly supports the full funnel experience. James, what, is that 8 times, 9 times now? 9, okay, I was counting. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So you do steps 1, 2, and 3. You will deliver data-led, customer-centric marketing for customers. And then the outturn from that, and the outcome from that, is great performance for our paying clients. And that's everything from driving impressions and conversion metrics, but of course, ROAS, return on advertising spend at the end. Sounds really, really simple, but needs scale and breadth of data, really valuable insight, a real true retail media capability. Scale and reach, I've touched on this a few times, but I do think it's a point of difference for us. So we've got 19.6 million customers in Nectar. It is the largest coalition loyalty program in the UK. Why is that important? It's a point of difference for customers. Coalition, the ability to earn points at an eBay, spend it in a Sainsbury's, and vice versa. Okay, scaled partners, coalition model. We've got a huge physical store estate, both across Sainsbury's and Argos, again a point of difference, and a huge online imprint across those two brands. That gives us premium data, first-party permission data, based on actual buying behaviour, one-to-one match. We build Nectar audiences on the back of it. And then what we thought really carefully about over time is those fantastic Nectar audiences. How do we democratize those Nectar audiences and our retail media capability, which goes across off-site, on-site, in-store, really importantly, and connected TV? How do we democratize those Nectar audiences and those capabilities through proprietary built platforms and, really importantly, partnerships, ad tech partnerships? And what that gives us, which is, I think, bingo number 10, is a retail media offering that is truly a full funnel marketing offer. Everything from driving mental availability at the top, driving consideration and inspiration and discovery through the middle, and of course conversion at the bottom. And look, we've just laid out the channels that I've described a second ago. Roughly, the reality is they're not static. Customers don't shop in a linear way anymore. It's not the journey that you see that is like that anymore. That's not how customers shop. These channels can be interchangeable depending on the level and what the client wants from a particular brief. What I'm not saying here is traditional media has not got a role to play. Any well thought out marketing mix needs balance and variety. The difference is retail media has definitely grown up. It's super sophisticated now. It delivers. So if you're not using it and it's not a formal part of your plan, the question is why? And how can we help you understand the value that it can drive? A couple of key takeaways, because I can see Alice looking at me about time. So two key takeaways. Number one, a customer-first mindset is key. Number two, retail media is definitely more than a conversion channel. So we're going to move on to our fantastic panel now. Let me just get my questions out. The first question is coming to you, Rob. We've talked a lot about the customer. As a brand, what do you look for in a fantastic retail media plan?
I mean, it's a great question. First of all, thankfully this mic is working, so that's the first hurdle overcome. I think for me, I kind of look at it in a wider landscape. So there's one word, I'm going to boil this down, because that question I could answer in 13 minutes and 4 seconds in totality. But I'm going to boil it down into one word and
We're not
two
allowed
reasons.
to talk about time, apparently.
So consistency. For me as a brand, consistency is critical through this. So why is that important? 2 reasons. Consumer, you started this conversation about what's the most important kind of demographic and party to everything we're talking about today, and that's the consumer, people who are buying our products. So consistency is a journey, a storytelling journey for consumers, whether that's at the top of the funnel, right to the bottom into the conversion point, whether that's in-store, digital store, etc. So the storytelling side of it. That's really important. And the second thing as a brand is consistency to my approach. I want data, I want insight, I want consistent creative opportunities, I want that consistent response to everything that we're asking for from platforms like yourself. And I think that's really important, because I said to you before, my job is really easy. My job is to spend money, you know. I say that to my kids, you know, your job sounds amazing. The reality is consistency will allow me to spend more money in these arenas based on data, you know, that golden principle of consumer data. So I think that for me is consistency is the golden principle across it all for those 2 reasons.
Rob said he's got money to spend, everyone. So you've heard it here first.
It's not my money, trust me.
No, really, really important. And look, I think again a point was made earlier on around who is buying lunch. We're buying lunch, definitely. And the organisations that are owned by retailers have definitely seen a shift in mindset. And again, that was referenced earlier on. Thank you, Rob. Next question for you, Henry. There's been a big shift in big tech in terms of protecting the customer. Lots of moves out there in terms of Apple and upcoming third-party cookie depreciation. What role does Google play in the retail media ecosystem?
Well, Amir, thanks very much for having me, and great to be here. A little funny story about Amir, just a little bit of insight for you all. His last time I saw him, he wasn't wearing his own pants. So it's great that we have a best dressed competition in the room outside. So I'd suggest you go and have a look now. You're looking so sharp in your own clothes.
We need some context there. Henry, we need
don't
some
have time.
Okay, we don't have time.
This.
It's far more entertaining without the context. So if you want the context, kind of grab me or Amir later. But they weren't his pants. So where does Google sort of sit in the world of retail media? So I guess first and foremost we have Google Inventory, which I imagine everyone in the room is well aware of. You know, be that search, be that shopping, be that third-party display and video. But then the part of the organization that I work in is our enterprise advertising technology. So be that Google Ad Manager, our Google Marketing Platform stack. And then we also have, obviously, all of our cloud solutions as well. So data management capabilities across BigQuery, Ads Data Hub. And then as well, we have a lot of really interesting kind of first-party products within the Cloud Enterprise Suite, whether that's retail search or Vertex AI, recommendations AI. So many of the kind of off-the-shelf machine learning and artificial intelligence models that anyone, whether they're in retail media or anywhere else, can utilize and bring to bear on media, whether that's their own and operated or whether that's on our media or any other third-party media.
Thank you, Henry. Yara, agencies are starting to set up their own retail media centers of excellence to support their clients in this area. What, in your opinion, is the agency's role within the retail media flywheel?
Great question. So, loads and loads to talk about. I think two main things when it comes to the agency world and clients is really lean on us. I think connecting the dots in the world of media, above the line, etc., is where we're here, how we're here to help. I've been in rooms where the trade teams don't even know that there's TV going live next week, but we do. So I think that's one big thing around leaning in. Even when it comes to JBPs with retailers, I think that's that support system and having that overview is really crucial. Second point would be around tech and partnerships. So partnerships being, WPP, for example, just partnered with Shopify. So leaning on us for, betas, training, really being able to lean on us is, I think, the biggest takeout from that. And then when it comes to tech, so because of retail media being so vast, as a brand, where do we spend our money? All the money that you have lying around. It's, we have the tech to actually demonstrate through data where you should be spending your money based on the category opportunity, but also your current share of voice and where you want to get to in terms of share of voice. So, being able to, we've developed calculators, instant calculators to really help brands determine where they need to play.
That's great. Thank you, Yara. Alice, it's been a year of innovation for retail media. What are you most excited about within this space?
I think I kind of referred to what you said earlier. I feel like retail media is in the teenage years at the moment. We're a little bit awkward and we're kind of finding our way. But I think that brings with it loads of innovation. I think, for me, particularly the announcement that we made 2 weeks ago around connected screens in store and the fact that we're going to be able to partner our data with that to make really intelligent decisions that are right for the customer, I think is really interesting. I have to reference Tesco with their scan to shop. I think, the fact that we're starting to digitize that store environment and bring everything together, as I said, is only really good from a customer point of view. And then connected TV, I know that obviously they've got their session this afternoon, but a lot of innovation in that space, again, being able to tie everything back to the sales and create kind of those really instant shopping behaviors. I love the QR codes that you now see when you're streaming so that you can go straight to the point of purchase. So yeah, I think we've seen a lot of innovation and I'm sure there's lots more to come.
It is definitely exciting times. I'm not sure we're quite a teenager in retail media. Maybe early 20s?
I'll say that.
Yeah. Rob, we were talking backstage actually about standardization in data, in metrics, in approach, and some of the challenges that go with it, and obviously some of the opportunity. Why is it important for you as a brand?
Look, I think there's, we talk about the teenagers, you talk about all the different platforms and opportunities for brands to invest in retail media and retail media networks, physical store, digital store, etc. So it's a fragmented marketplace. So bringing consistency and clarity to a fragmented marketplace makes it really simple for me, my guys, to spend money on our brands in a targeted way. You know, for us, we're farmer owned, you know, we're a cooperative. So everything we do, we try to drive a positive response for our owners, which are the farmers, to keep them in business. So it's really important that we are targeting in the right way. So that standardization is a critical piece, I think, of the evolution of retail media.
Great, thank you, Rob. And Yara, as someone with a really good overview of the whole playing field, what do you see are the main blockers to standardization?
Yeah, so to your point, I think fragmentation is a big one. We were speaking about it backstage. But it's really about, from an agency lens, having bilingual people in your team. And what that means is having people that can speak retail, but also can speak media. That's really going to kind of take out those blockers just from a conversation standpoint. I think is kind of the number one step, I would say.
Sorry, can I just add something as well?
Sure.
When we talk about standardization, I think naturally we all talk about with platforms like Nectar or other platforms. But I think there's a standardization internally for brands as well, because the sensitivities around budget ownership, structures, historical structures, and the way you go about a business. I think there's also an internal standardization that needs to evolve for brands. And dare I say it, to add to the bingo, you know, from an omni-channel perspective, it needs to happen. So working with partners is really important, working with platforms is really important, but we as brands need to standardize as well.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Rob. And Alice, you've been knee-deep in the ISBA work, representing Nectar 360. What's your view on standardization in general?
It's a necessary, right? You know, we all need to be talking the same language. It's great today to actually be in a room full of people that actually understand what we're talking about, and you don't have to explain what retail media is. So I think having that common language is going to be really key, and also making it really easy so that we all know what we're talking about. That transparency is a super interesting thing, and you know, the work that's going to be coming out of ISBA very shortly, and obviously from an IAB perspective, I think is just moves on, and the fact that all of us competitors have got around a table and actually played quite nicely. That's been quite nice.
Blimey. I'm going to go off piece a little bit. So those questions that we just worked through actually were a combination of internal, but also getting a view from some of our clients. But I'm going to go totally random now. I thought Dean from Co-op made a really good point earlier on. Where is he? Wave. He made lots of really good points. But one in particular, which was he's done a bit of homework around other retail media networks, both in the UK and globally. And his view was you could switch out the badges. They broadly do the same thing. And I think on one level, that's really interesting because that will help on the standardization front for our clients. On another, where's your strategic advantage? Where's your point of difference? I wanted to go around a few of you and just particularly client side, just to get a sense of what would make a difference in terms of point of difference when you're working with a retail media network. Can I go to you first, Rob, on that one?
I guess I started with one word of consistency, but what makes a difference? I think clear visibility and a truth and an honesty around the approach and what's deliverable. I think sometimes, you know, with the teenage years, you start to kind of sell a dream, and the reality is we need to be really effective with what we do and how we spend our money. So clarity and visibility on what that's going to bring to somebody like us that don't hold first-party data. We rely on our partners. We rely on contextual advertising to engage with consumers. So I think that visibility and clarity is something that will make a huge difference for us. I do think there's probably another term, I'm for one words at the moment, but across the landscape, you talked, Alison, about cooperation across competitors, and I think this co-opetition mentality will build consistency and make it easier for us to engage with as well.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Rob. Yara?
Yeah, I think to echo the collaboration element, I mean, Nectar's been great in that, in the sense of really trying to move business objectives and not just the ROAS kind of mentality, and understanding a business's, drive, and I think that's how we can overcome some of those barriers internally in a brand, just to be able to kind of speak the same language is definitely one.
Sorry, no, I'll jump in again. I think there's an honesty from a client perspective in terms of what our ambitions are. It's not just about driving sales or branded growth, incremental sales, etc., but there are KPIs and actually a shared responsibility around KPIs. There's probably an evolution from an agency model as well. Taking it on the chin, actually you're there to drive our performance, but it's not just the sales side of things.
Yeah. And look, from my perspective, I think it will be the businesses that connect the dots between data and digital. But it will be the business that make it really easy for you as clients to use the platforms, and those that bring the best client service to the table. And that was my point earlier on around we buy lunch. You guys are the clients. Alice, what is your prediction for what we will be talking about at next year's Retail Media
Feeling
Upfront?
left out here, Amir.
Sorry?
Feeling left out here.
Oh, sorry. Let's go to... Sorry,
You
Henry.
take that question. What
Henry,
do you think?
I think it's because you referenced my pants
Yeah,
wearing.
well, I know. We've got off on the wrong foot.
Okay, Henry, to you then. What is
Well,
your
no, I was
prediction?
just going to chime in on the last question, actually. So, obviously, we as Google, we spend quite a lot of money with retailers merchandising our suite of hardware. And I think the key thing there is that we've talked a lot about retail media today, but we should probably be talking about retail marketing. So I think creative and actually what you can do with the canvases, whether they're in-store, and physical canvases, which, if you go into any Currys or John Lewis store, you'll see all of, Apple stuff laid out beautifully, and someone spent a long time thinking about that. You'll see all of our hardware there as well. And that's a collaboration and a partnership with retailer. And I think, when you think about the in-store piece and then you take that to the digital surfaces as well, I think creative and coming up with joint creative concepts. We saw that with Kellogg's this morning and Tesco's as well. I think we should be thinking about retail marketing as a whole, which is like creative, insights, media, and measurement, rather than just focusing on an impression and a click.
Spot on. I'm sorry for leaving you out.
I know we're running over, but just to add to that, I think it's the rapidness of the content. I know you have all these touch points, but how do we actually have a different message per touch point, I think is where the strong suit is. And if retailers are more collaborative in that sense, and we know everyone has an SLA, but how can we kind of hijack that and make sure that we're as flexible as possible in such a reactive world? Thank you.
And Henry, because you were feeling left out, what is your prediction for what we will be talking about at next year's Retail Media Upfronts?
Probably much the same stuff we're talking about this year. I think we'll talk about identity and cookies as well. This time next year, third-party cookies won't really be a thing. It'll be interesting to see what media owners, what advertisers have really got out the gate fast and first on this, and those who are having a torrid Q2 and Q3 next year. So I think that will be a seismic shift. Third-party tracking has been a feature of the web for the last 20 odd years, and I think this is a sea change. So I think that will probably generate quite a few column inches and a bit of panel time.
Great, thank you, Alice.
I think some great points already made this morning. So I think non-endemic will become a bit of share of the pie. How we make sure that that's customer centric is going to be key. I do really believe in what Helen said, that there was going to have to be collaboration. If we look at the US, over 60, 70 retail media networks. We're kind of, getting almost a new one every week in the UK. That's going to have to come together at some point. And then a personal thing is probably more about sustainability in this environment. So we saw the announcement from our friend Cara at Kroger this week, but actually starting to think more about the fact that we're not retail media. We are playing in a programmatic field that has a lot of innovation and needs to really think about its impact. So that would probably be the third thing for me.